Hello, welcome, and sorry. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Maple Bitcoin. I got Rajat, I got Forrest, and I am Jor. And I got a nice celebratory Guinness, a nitro. So I'm going to be buzzing this live stream, boys. So happy Friday. How we doing, fellas?
Yeah, doing well.
We got a nice looking chat so far. I got to get the banner up here for the people. If you would like to, no, that's not the right one. If you have questions, put them in caps. We will address later. So if any questions come up throughout the live stream today, throw them in caps just so we can see them, differentiate them, star them, and revisit them later. So we've been spending about that last half hour of each show here answering questions and taking some feedback from the chat. So where do we begin, boys? This one we titled 99% of people don't know the true value of Bitcoin.
Yeah, we should get into it. I mean, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about gold today and comparing that to Bitcoin. I mean, that's something people do all the time, but Jory, you had some talking points on there. Do you want to hop on that?
Yeah, we'll start with that. I kind of got 5 different things here that I wanted to talk about in terms of 5 reasons why Bitcoin will overtake gold. So I'll share these quickly and then we can discuss them. You guys can share a little bit more if you have anything to add to that. The chat as well. If there's any reasons why you would hold Bitcoin over gold, throw it in the chat and we'll start and talk about it. So the first one is you can't buy coffee with gold. And there's a lot of people who say that about Bitcoin. But the funny thing is now you actually can buy coffee with Bitcoin. But try buying a cup of coffee with an ounce of gold and see how that goes. So that's number 1. Number 2 is their doomsday scenario is totally wrong. So for some reason, the gold bugs out there are betting on the world collapsing, betting on doomsday, betting on an apocalypse. Whereas Bitcoiners, on the other hand, are very optimistic and hopeful about the future. And we foresee a functioning society. But the reason, maybe we'll get into a couple of these points after, but that's, I think that if you had the choice between food, water, and gold, you're probably going to take food and water in that scenario. The third one I had was that you don't really own gold, even though you might have it in your dresser, in the safe maybe. You only own that gold until someone more powerful comes along and decides that they want that gold from you, which they cannot do with Bitcoin. Number 4 is that I think the demand for gold has peaked. I don't think that it will ever increase from here. I think that the majority of people and countries who own gold today are not growing in numbers. And I think that as the next generation, we transition and some of those members of the baby boomers, silent generation start to pass down some of their wealth, that is not going to be held in gold. That's going to be held in Bitcoin. So I think that we've reached the peak demand for gold at this point in 2025. And the last one is that you can't transact online, which I think is wildly overlooked from a lot of people. You cannot use gold online. And I don't know if you guys haven't noticed, people in the chat, if you haven't noticed, the majority of commerce is now online. This isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It's something that's happening today. A lot of people buy a lot of things online, and you cannot do that with gold. You cannot send gold through that QR code by Forrest's head. You cannot buy a new hoodie online with gold. So those are the 5 reasons why I think that Bitcoin will overtake gold. That's why we titled the show this, and the thumbnail is Bitcoin is worth $1 million, because if Bitcoin were to pass gold, even get even with gold, that would put Bitcoin at about a $1 million price point today. So thoughts?
Yeah, I want to touch on that last one there. The internet is a way of transferring data. And when you go to a store, if you're paying with cash, I would argue that's the only time you're not using the internet, using a digital currency. If you use a debit card, credit card, your phone with your credit card on there, you're using the internet, or the store is going to use the internet to send that to the bank. The bank is using the internet to transfer data all over the place. So all of that is dependent on the internet, on the digital economy, basically. So that's it needs to be digitized. And I think Lynn Alden has said this, where ever since we invented the telegram, we have needed to invent a faster money. At one time, if we transferred gold, we would use that with a horse and buggy. And if we transferred information, we would use a horse as well. That was the fastest way to get information. So by settling a deal, you could settle it just as fast as you could settle payment. But with the telegram, you could communicate, okay, I want to make this deal. Let's sell this land and you owe me this amount of gold. And then it takes a month to get that gold there, but the deal's already been made. So information started traveling way faster than finance was able to. Now we have the technology with Bitcoin to transfer information transfer value just as fast as we can transfer information and have final settlement in something that can't be debased.
Yeah. And one thing that people are talking about here, China sold a bunch of their Bitcoin. I think they sold something like 15,000 Bitcoin. Just like Germany, they're going to regret it.
Oh, yeah.
In 10 years, 20 years, that 15,000 Bitcoin is going to be basically something that they can't even imagine getting back.
When did that happen?
I think it was a few days ago.
Oh, dummies.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
It could just be signal as well. I mean, a lot of people sell to trigger other people to sell so they can buy back, right? There's a lot of tricks that large buyers and sellers do. They say they're selling and then they're actually buying from all the other people that then say they're selling, right? That's a hedge fund technique. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they're going to regret it. I mean, they're looking to go back to gold. And that's the thing. I'd also like to talk to one of your points there, Jorah, where you mentioned in a doomsday scenario, people try to go for gold. And that's really not that useful. You probably want to stack bullets and seeds, and maybe people would trade with those physically, right? Because those are very valuable. But really, people aren't really, I mean, some wild people out there are doomsday preppers or something like that, but it's when uncertainty happens that gold goes up in value. So people use it as like an uncertainty hedge. And we've seen that. We've seen that with the tariffs. We've seen all this global uncertainty in the economy happen, and we've seen gold prices go up. But so it kind of, on the extreme end, it does go towards people trying to buy gold as like this ultimate safe haven. But I think that only works in the lead up to like an economic collapse. I think people realize, okay, well, what am I doing with this element, this shiny pet rock, as some people call it? What value does this actually have? Basically nothing in a real survival situation. And it really only has value for perceived from the history of it having value and its scarcity. But again, the scarcity is kind of a myth as well. I don't know if you guys have looked into this, but the amount of mining we have done has barely scratched the surface, like literally barely scratched the surface of Earth. We haven't dug very deep into the Earth's crust, and we actually don't know how much is going on below there, what kind of metals and elements there are underneath a lot of the area that we've surveyed. So there could be just crazy amounts of gold deposits all over the place that we have no idea.
I've seen that there's a lot of gold under the oceans that can be mined. If the price goes up significantly from here, people think, oh, it's going to go to 10K, it's going to go to 20K. It just makes it more profitable to take Bitcoin out of the earth if the price goes up, right? And if you think about it this way, if the price goes up, it becomes more profitable for people to take gold out of the earth. It also becomes more difficult to use it in electronics. So it just gets worse and worse over time. More and more, as the price goes up, more and more people may want to hold on to it. And then there's less gold available to use in, let's say, industrial production.
Yeah.
And how much did you say was used for jewelry, Forrest?
Roughly around 50% of gold is used for jewelry, and the rest is just stockpiled. So you could argue that the rest is a monetary premium on top of that, because people are valuing it based on its monetary history. So again, if Bitcoin starts to demonetize gold, just as gold demonetized silver, right? Silver and gold used to have an actual trading pair that was really, really stable. And then it decoupled when the gold standard was introduced, and countries that were on the silver standard got all the value extracted out of them, basically. It decoupled, and that's always been like an argument. If you talk to silver bulls, they're like, well, historically, it's always traded way closer to gold's value. 16 times, gold is 16 times more valuable. Now it's 46 times or something like this, these numbers, right?
I think it's more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But it's never going back there. It's never going, silver's never getting remonetized because gold beat it out. And now into the future, Bitcoin is more scarce, it's more usable, it's more decentralized, it's more valuable, and gold will become demonetized. So how much of that monetary premium that's on gold will go over to the value of Bitcoin, right? If it was 1 for 1, and that's not really the way markets are made, if it was 1 to 1 and half of the gold value was transferred over to Bitcoin, Bitcoin's price would be what, 450,000, 500,000, something like that.
So somebody said here, I would like to see gold and Bitcoin merged somehow. That's not going to happen because, I mean, the way that I see it, gold is just a placeholder for Bitcoin. Until people figure out what Bitcoin is, they're going to want gold, right? Because gold is it's a bearer asset, so it gets rid of a lot of the risk that comes with, let's say, stocks or bonds or real estate. Even with real estate, it's a bearer asset, but you don't hold your deed. How many people do you guys have the deeds to your? Did you guys ever have the deeds to your house if you owned a house? I don't.
I'm not
No.
sure.
Probably not.
Yeah,
It's probably at the
probably
bank,
not.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Those office, I think.
if something happens and you need to prove that you own a house, I mean, how do you know that the bank isn't going to turn on you, right, for your house? So the person said, I would like to see gold and Bitcoin merged somehow. It's not going to happen because Bitcoin and gold are completely separate. You can create more Bitcoin. It's like trying to peg the US dollar to gold. The US dollar can be created at will. It has a higher inflation rate than gold. So trying to peg the US dollar to gold kind of breaks the system, and it allows the people who own the gold, because nobody can verify how much gold there is. Nobody can verify who holds gold. Even with Fort Knox, it's taken what? It's estimated that it's going to take a year and a half to audit the total supply of gold. In that time, whoever is pegging their currency to gold can continue to just manipulate everybody, right?
Yeah.
So gold and Bitcoin won't merge because gold can't go on the internet. Bitcoin can't become physical. So they're completely separate. It's like trying to say that I'd like to see some crappy, it's like saying I'd like to see a PS5 game played on a PS1 or Nintendo 64. It's not going to work.
That's a
It's
great
just not going to
analogy.
happen, right? It's because gold is so far. It's so far behind. It's 5,000 years old, and the people who, so a lot of people try to talk about how JP Morgan has a quote where gold is the only real money or something. You have to understand that Bitcoin didn't exist when he was alive. So of course he wouldn't know that Bitcoin is the real money. And people saying that as proof that, oh, gold is going to be around forever, I don't think they've really thought it through.
Yeah. And I would say they can't actually merge, but whoever created Bitcoin and the people developed Bitcoin, they took the best parts of what makes gold and they turned it into digital. And they turned Bitcoin, proof of work, the ledger system, and the accountability of it. They took the best parts of gold and actually made it better, and they made it digital. So that's the argument here, is like, and it's really tough for some people to understand Bitcoin because it's not tangible and they can hold a bar of gold. But again, you have to understand deeper what something actually is. Like, does the internet not exist because it's not physical? But in fact, it is physical. There's cables all over the place. There's modems, even signals through the airwaves. All of that is something. That's all stuff happening. And just because you can't see it, just because you can't touch it, doesn't mean it's not real. That's something that people need to reshape in their mind. And Bitcoin is just electric money. It's digital money. and gold was old physical money, and it needed an upgrade because fiat was even an upgrade. The paperization, the tokenization of gold was an upgrade because it lacked the speed to keep up with the developments of other technologies. Again, the telegram was the start of it, and it was an upgrade in speed, but it was a downgrade in settlement and basically the laws of physics. So we needed to upgrade it, and Bitcoin is that monetary upgrade that we drastically needed.
And I think that's why it's important to kind of just skip fiat, because it's so, I think even the average person right now understands how broken our monetary system is. So I think that a lot of people are looking to gold in terms of like both a store of value and a monetary medium of exchange, but it's just not possible. And you could say, well, you could monetize or digitize gold. You could make a blockchain keeping track of who owns the gold. But the problem there is the centralization involved with gold. You would still have to verify the fact that whatever's backing that digital currency backed by gold, that the gold is actually exists somewhere, and you can verify it. And it's also real gold, not, half gold or 80% gold or whatever that is. And that's impossible to do at this point. It's actually impossible to do. And I think that when we're talking about the physical world, we're talking about the digital world. It's pretty clear, I think, that the internet's going to stick around for a while, and the majority of things will be done over the internet, commerce, communication, everything like that. And the nice thing about Bitcoin is very unique in the sense that it actually takes energy from the physical world and it puts it online. And it's the only token, it's the only crypto, it's the only thing that does that. And the reason it does that is because it takes real energy, electricity, natural resources from the physical world to create Bitcoin that exists today, that people can send back and forth, transact with online. And that's the real power of Bitcoin here, is that it actually ties the physical world into the digital world.
I think there's another angle that we can look at this from as well. Let's say, for example, if BRICS, all these countries that are supposed to be cooperating with one another, if they were to back their currency with gold, how would anybody confirm that they actually have the gold? Or how would they even decide who holds the gold in the first place? Let's say China says that, we're the most powerful, we'll hold it. How do the other countries trust them? Why would the other countries trust them? Right, that's one thing. If they were to use Bitcoin, they could use multi-sig wallets. They could all look at the wallets whenever they want to. They can confirm that the Bitcoin is there. They can confirm that the Bitcoin is real. If they were to go with gold, so this, I think this is just this just shows you that Bitcoin is money for enemies, while gold is just a shiny rock.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because even if you had the best storage, you could verify that the gold is there, you had live cams in there. The problem with that is it doesn't decentivize war like Bitcoin does.
Yeah.
Because that country will only hold that gold until a more powerful country comes along and decides that they want to take that gold from them. So you cannot do that with Bitcoin, whether we're talking about countries or individuals or anybody. Bitcoin, if done properly, regardless of how powerful they are, regardless of how many times they torture you, whatever, that you have the ability to never give them that Bitcoin. And you can't do that with any other asset. And that's a pretty powerful thing, because it takes away the incentive for people to participate in war.
Yeah. And the BRICS, I mean, we talk about it as an example, they would just be creating the exact same problem that the US dollar has as the reserve currency of the world. The US dollar was supposed to be a natural reserve currency, or a neutral reserve currency. And it's still required a huge amount of trust. It requires so much trust from anybody using it globally. They have to trust each other's trade, and they have to trust that this money is going to have value. It's not going to be rapidly debased upon settlement. And the US has broken that trust multiple times. But all these nations, everybody around the world, they don't know what else to use. Like, the limitations of gold is such that it makes it impractical to trade. It makes it too expensive to trade. So the world drastically needs a neutral currency that doesn't require trust. And that's exactly what Bitcoin is. And it's really the problem that they're having to overcome is believing that Bitcoin has any value. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have to overcome when they first hear about Bitcoin. What gives Bitcoin any value? It's just somebody else is willing to pay for it with these dollars. It's really just trying to figure out, okay, what actually gives it value? And once you understand, well, it can't be debased, you can actually hold it. All of these factors that go into Bitcoin, you start to understand that money does have a value. It's a very incredible technology. It's a tool for trade, and that we need something like this. So therefore it has value. The fact that it's needed gives it value.
So somebody said here, I think this is a great comment to answer right now. Like you started there, Jor. If gold has no value for survival and it's a physical item, what is Bitcoin worth for survival? It's not. You can't eat Bitcoin, you can't drink Bitcoin, you can't eat gold, you can't drink gold. So I think money exists in societies where there's
It's
where people
functioning.
are able to, yeah, a functioning society where people are able to
Exactly.
cooperate with one another, right? If you don't have a society where people are cooperating with one another, where people are just willing to do whatever they can to because they're struggling, they're starving, in that case, the only form of money that you're going to have is guns, lead.
Just barter.
Right.
In a completely unstable environment like that, it does go back to barter until people can trust that something's going to retain its value over time, and they're going to agree on something being a medium of exchange.
But that's the issue. Only barter only works until somebody has a stronger weapon. Right? If they threaten to shoot you and they're like, "Hey, give me all your stuff, you get to keep your life in exchange."
Well, I would say trade in general could
Yeah,
be like that, even if there was
true. Yeah.
a tool in between barter.
Yeah.
You still have to, and then yeah, I mean that's why we have like the laws and police and military, and all of that is all to protect people's rights to fair trade.
Yeah.
But all of that is up for debate, how useful or how well it works and everything, right? And there's all sorts of unfair trade that goes around because of brute force as
Yeah.
well. But yeah,
And in that scenario, you're probably not going to be using gold for electronics. You're probably not going to have electronics because that, I
yeah,
mean, even creating electronics, it takes a lot of cooperation. It takes a lot of specialization. If you're trading, if you're bartering directly for goods and services, then I think specialization will be very difficult to achieve because you have to focus on creating certain goods and services, but instead you're focused on survival. I think that's one of the things that we have today, right? We have such an advanced society that we're doing so well. We see the smallest problems. If we didn't have the kind of society that we have today, our problems would be so much worse.
yeah.
Right? So much. We wouldn't have a lot of the things that we're doing today. We wouldn't be able to do them. We wouldn't have the same work that we have. The entire world would be completely different.
100%.
And the thing is about a doomsday scenario is, in my opinion, those are only possible localized and for a short time frame. And
Yeah.
because certain areas around the world are still going to function, have an economy, a society, and all of that, it's going to be very terrible for the people where a terrible situation happens that causes destabilization. But eventually they'll either move to more stable areas, they'll migrate, right, as we can see in war zones and things, or they'll rebuild and it'll start functioning again. And in both of those cases, it still makes sense to have a store of value that's recognized by all of the stable areas in the world in these doomsday scenarios. I think the world is sufficiently decentralized in nations, countries, and the way we orchestrate and organize as humans, that a single doomsday global event is next to impossible. I mean, the likelihood is next to nothing.
And then the next question here, can someone tell me what's the supply of gold? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what the supply of gold is
Yeah, that's a
because
problem.
you
Yeah.
find gold in the ground. If somebody finds gold in their backyard, then who's going to stop them from adding it to the supply? We have no idea how much gold exists. We have no idea who's digging deeper and deeper into the earth. Let's say China, for example. China will tell us that, oh, we have this amount of gold. We have this amount of gold. We have no idea. We have no way to confirm. Even
Yeah.
even the people who are very well versed on gold, they've spent a lot of time learning about it. They have no idea. They can't tell you what the supply is going to be. On the other hand, with Bitcoin, we know exactly how much Bitcoin is going to exist. You can't say it to the second because we don't know how long every block is going to take. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. But you can go by the year, right? We know that there's going to be 21 million Bitcoin by 2140.
You can go by
Would
the
I be able to
month pretty
afford it?
much too, based on
Yeah,
how the
by the month,
difficulty
yeah.
adjustment every 2 weeks, right? You
Yeah.
could pretty accurately predict based on the month.
Yeah. The only issue with that, I don't completely agree with you because sometimes there's more hash power dedicated to the system, and sometimes on average it seems like the 4 year cycle is shorter than 4 years because there's more the
True. Yeah,
target
that's
of the
true.
right, the target of the difficulty adjustment is to bring it to 10.
Yeah.
It's to 10 minutes. It's not to bring it on average, like in total, to 10 minutes. It's just for that 2 week period, right? So in that 2 week period, it could go below 10, and then the next period it'll go back to 10. It won't go higher to average it out. So it could take until, let's say, we think 2140. It could take until 2135,
Yeah. Well,
right?
Yeah.
the hash rate is constantly increasing, which
Yes.
shortens the length within the 2 weeks until
Yes.
the difficulty adjustment comes up. So that's why it's usually like a couple weeks or a month faster
Yeah.
each halving, is
Yeah.
because it just on average the hash rate is increasing, which is speeding up the 2 week periods.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'd say on this in terms of the gold having value for survival, I don't know what it is. I feel like the gold bugs have this weird like fantasy about, the internet going down, the power going out, them being able to finally go into their basement and get out their gold coins. They're going to go for a nice stroll around the block. They're going to be able to offer things with their gold for food and stuff. But realistically, if the internet goes out for, more than a couple weeks, people are going to be scrambling. Like there's not
Yeah.
a whole lot of people out there who have more than a week's worth of food and water in their house. They just don't. And so in that type of scenario, you walk up to somebody's house with a couple ounces of gold in your hand and try to buy a couple sandwiches or a couple pickles. They're gonna be like, no, because I don't know when the internet's coming back on or when the power's coming back on. Why would I trade you food for that piece of, for a pet rock? It doesn't make any sense. And that's like their whole basis of why they're holding gold is like in that scenario, you're not going to be able to use your Visa, you're not going to be able to use Bitcoin, but I'm going to magically be able to pay for things with an ounce of or a couple gold coins. It's just nonsense to me.
Yeah, it is
If anything,
nonsense.
people will want it less at that time because you can't use it for you can't do. What are you going to do with gold at that time?
Exactly. You can't do anything with it. And so we're not arguing saying that Bitcoin is like a better alternative in a doomsday scenario. We're saying that we're betting on humanity. We're betting on a functioning society. And in that functioning society, Bitcoin is a far superior asset to gold. So yes, gold was the best store of value before January 3rd, 2009.
Yeah.
But most people holding gold, either their ego gets in the way or they've gone too far down that road. And I shouldn't say all gold bugs because there's a lot of people who hold gold and Bitcoin, which I think is insane. But, most gold bugs still do, just avoid Bitcoin for that reason.
Well, I would say that gold bugs, they understand that fiat money is unsound. They're just betting on the wrong horse of what will continue to, or what will be the history, or the future money is what I'm trying to say. So
Right.
we agree. I think I've talked to a lot of gold bugs, and they just can't understand the intangible nature of Bitcoin. They think there's too many risks on top of that because they oftentimes do not understand technology. They do understand maybe the money side of things. So that's where I would say that. And there's two different types of people that I talked that I'll actually legitimately try to orange pill, and that's crypto bros and gold bugs, because they at least understand something, either part maybe the technology side or maybe the money side, and they just have it wrong with the connection of the two.
Yeah, I think most people are just so far behind. They have no idea what's going on. They don't want to hear about what's going on because, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really blame them either, right? Because they're struggling to make ends meet. They spend their entire day working. So why would they really want to? They spend their entire day making money. So they don't really want to study money. It's because they don't have any energy. They don't have any time. Their time is being stolen from them. And again,
Mhm.
it all goes back to that root cause. The root cause is that they don't understand how money works. The root cause is that the people who are creating the money today are stealing their value from them. And once they figure this out, I think everything is going to change. And that could take a long time, right? That could take a really long time. I think by the time that people really figure it out, by the time that people figure out what the true value of Bitcoin is, it's going to be at millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. We'll be pricing all our charts in sats because it'll make a lot more sense to do so than to have these Bitcoin that are worth $1 million. I think that's the next step of adoption is getting Satoshis to be a lot more common as a unit of count. And it's just going to take a lot of time. And I feel horrible for all the people that think they can save money, because the savers are the ones that suffer from monetary debasement. The debtors are the ones that benefit. The savers are the ones that suffer. So if you think you're saving money, you're doing the right thing, you've been told, put a percentage of your paycheck away, you are you're getting your life sucked out of you by doing that. I mean, you have literally used your life, your time and energy. You're tired at the end of the day. You've done all of that to acquire money. That money is your energy and time abstracted into a third form, and that is being taken from you. And so it's a form of stealing people's life from them, the monetary debasement.
Yeah. My theory on that is that gold bugs, silver bugs, the longer they've been in silver, the more resistant they are to Bitcoin. I feel like there's a lot of people going through, there's a great awakening happening right now all around the world between media, government, monetary, everything. People are realizing the fact that something's wrong here. And when people have that realization, the first thing that they usually go to is what has always been around, which is gold and silver. That's where I came from. I started my journey here in gold and silver. That's the first thing I ran to. And once you're past that, once you have the realization that this system is broken, fiat will never recover from where we are, you go to gold and silver. But then your mindset is different. You realize that there's something wrong and there's maybe hopefully a better solution out there. And that's usually when you find Bitcoin. So I feel like that's kind of like the natural progression is from fiat to gold and silver to Bitcoin. And the shorter you're in the gold and silver, I think the faster you can get to Bitcoin. But the longer you're there, the more ego you have, the more people you've talked about it, told them to buy these different precious metals, and the less likely you are to move on to Bitcoin from there.
Yeah, it's an ego test and it's a IQ test. It's a whole bunch of tests. You got to really humble yourself to recognize when you're wrong, and the more you're entrenched in something, the harder it is to recognize that. And again, if you've told a bunch of people about your beliefs of whatever asset, and then you have to go back on that and say, you know what, I think I was wrong. I'm actually going to go over to this other thing that I think is better. That's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto Princess. Sorry, Rajat, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, go ahead with what you're saying. I was just going to answer one of Crypto Princess's questions that you highlighted.
She's popular. I was going to say Crypto Princess says, or just hold both gold and Bitcoin. I don't think that that's a real good play, honestly. 1 ounce of gold, you can get about 3 million sats for that. I think that's if you're holding any gold in your house instead of Bitcoin, I think that's going to be a serious mistake. One's going to go up forever. Gold will probably go up, in comparison to the monetary supply, but over time, Bitcoin especially if you're our age or Crypto Princess's age, the longer you hold on to that gold, the less sats and real wealth you're going to end up with at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think gold is real Beanie Babies because you can't do anything with it. What are you going to do with it? People say that Bitcoin is Beanie Babies, but you can't do anything with Bitcoin. What are you going to do with gold? If you have gold in your basement or in your vault, who are you going to pay with it? You can't.
Well, you wait till the power goes out and then you walk around and see who's willing to sell you things.
You know what's interesting here about holding different assets is that's what's so interesting about like the network effect. And people talk about, okay, well, Bitcoin is MySpace and there's going to be a Facebook. There's no switching cost from switching to MySpace to Facebook. You can still have your MySpace profile and you can make a Facebook profile. But with assets where you've acquired them for value, that is locked in there unless you swap it into a different asset. So but a lot of people say, oh, well, I have Bitcoin, but I have some Solana, I have some of this and that and this. all of that money you've allocated to those other things is not in Bitcoin, and therefore you're missing out on the opportunity cost of the true innovation in the space, which is Bitcoin. And there's a real cost to not switching over to the dominant protocol. And again, if we're talking monetary systems, gold is lumped into these competitors of the new monetary system. And so again, if you're allocated to gold, you're not allocated to Bitcoin with that specific amount.
So her
Right.
question here was, the Bitcoin market is more manipulated than the gold market, and when will Bitcoin assets be less able to manipulate? I don't think that the price going up and down is manipulation. I think
I
that's
don't
what
either.
people think. People think that when the price, so when I used to work at the brokerage, I used to work at TD in their brokerage. So people would always say, "Oh, this stock is manipulated. The price just keeps going down, keeps going down." No, it's not, because the it's not being manipulated. It's just because it's the stock is just shit. The price is going down because the stock is just garbage, right? And with Bitcoin, I don't think it's manipulated. I think it's that there's more supply than we think. So people thought that, oh, actually, I was one of those people. I thought once it hits 100K, people are going to have this sudden realization, and I was completely wrong. I'm willing to admit it. I thought it would go to 150K, 200K, 250K very quickly. But that wasn't the case, because there's more people who are willing to sell Bitcoin than we had expected. Eventually, those people are going to run out. It goes back to the principle that Bitcoin runs out at every price. Eventually, the people who are willing to sell at 84K, 85K, 90K, 100K, they're going to run out. And then the price will come back up. It's not manipulated. It's more like there's fear and greed. There's more people who are scared, and they're willing to sell Bitcoin. They think that if it hits 100K, it's never going to go past it. It's going to go back to zero. So they're willing to sell. It's not manipulated. It's more like if you have people who don't quite understand an asset, of course, the price is going to be extremely volatile. It's going to keep doing that. It's going to keep doing that forever. Bitcoin is going to be, so the second question, when will Bitcoin assets be less able to manipulate? Never. The price is always going to be, the supply is always going to be inelastic, and the price is always going to be volatile because of that.
So there's a couple things here. I would say there's also whales that manipulate the price of Bitcoin in the short term by chasing out leverage within the system. I think that's not really manipulation. That's just trading. That's just trading. That's, seeing an opportunity where you can influence the market in some short-term way. That's just chasing gamblers out of the system, really. I think that will slow down as the market cap of Bitcoin gets higher, and the amount of Bitcoin nominally in USD will go up, but it'll be spread out thinner amongst more holders. I think the other manipulation that maybe Crypto Princess is talking about is the idea of paper Bitcoin and paper gold. And I would say that, we talked about how hard it is to audit Fort Knox. It's going to take 1.5 years. There are these gold trust ETFs that you can buy that are supposed to buy or allocate physical gold to the assets under management of these things. How difficult would it be to audit one of those vaults? How long would it take? How certain are you that when you buy this gold ETF, they are allocating and putting away a little chunk of gold for you? I would say it's a lot easier to manipulate that and create paper gold on that. But I don't rule out the concept of paper Bitcoin as well in the same fashion. I just think that because it's a public ledger, because these companies need to be audited, and it's much easier to audit them, that it's a lot riskier of a game for institutions or custodians to create paper Bitcoin. Not saying it's not possible, but I think that it is harder than it is to do something that is completely inauditable or basically inauditable, like the physical gold out there in the world that we have no idea. We have no account of how much gold there is. So I think there's a lot more paper gold out there than there is paper Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that actually it's funny. About an hour before the live stream today, I posted a video called Bitcoin prices being manipulated. So I'm kind of under the opinion that I do think that there is some paper Bitcoin games going on right now. I agree with Forrest in the sense that the risk is pretty high to be doing that. I don't know who would benefit most from that. but that doesn't, we shouldn't exclude the fact that they are able to do that still, because Rajat made some great points. He said that for the most part, there's no incentive for one, but the other thing is that it's very easy to point out, I think, that, where the paper gold is, or where the paper Bitcoin is. And based on the supply and demand of it, I think that it's tough to pinpoint for sure who would be doing it and why. But I do think that it's very difficult to say who owns it right now. And the supply is, even though we know how many Bitcoin exist, it's still hard to show how many of that is owned by who. And is there the ability for somebody like Strategy to claim that they have 500,000 and those 500,000 Bitcoin are off the market, when in fact we have no idea if they actually have control of those Bitcoin? That's kind of where I get caught up in it. I could go either way. The point is that there is paper Bitcoin being created, in different places right now. My thing is like, who would it benefit? Because people would say like BlackRock's trying to manipulate, the US government is trying to manipulate, but Larry Fink and Donald Trump have literally been on CNBC for like a year telling people to buy Bitcoin, right? So it's not like they're doing it behind the scenes and trying to trick people. But the problem I do have is, if they are able to do that, if the price is being manipulated, the people that it's going to hurt is the average person, because the average person doesn't care when Bitcoin's going sideways. They're not interested in it. So they're not going to learn about it. They're not going to buy any. And while this is happening, the whales, the big pools of capital, the central banks, the Larry Finks, they're buying as much Bitcoin as they can. And once they buy that Bitcoin, it's not likely flowing back to the average person. So that's what I fear most. I don't care what the price is today. I worry the fact that they're keeping it down to intentionally mislead the public and the average person, while all this is being accumulated kind of behind the scenes there. So that's kind of my thoughts. I really don't know if it's happening or not. I can't prove it either way, but I think it is, it's a fun discussion to have.
Yeah, you talked about who does it benefit. I think that's the key thing you need to look at is what are the incentives to create paper Bitcoin, and who has them. In my opinion, BlackRock does not have an incentive to create paper Bitcoin because they don't custody the Bitcoin. They want to make sure that they actually own the Bitcoin that they're allocated to. And if there is paper Bitcoin, that's going to suppress the price, and they earn fees off of assets under management priced in US dollars. So they actually want the price to go up of Bitcoin because they will earn more fees from it. Plus, it's sort of a Veblen good, and it attracts more inflows when the price goes up. So they don't want paper Bitcoin. And actually, the other day, they added another custodian for their ETFs, a much smaller company than Coinbase. So does Coinbase have an incentive to create paper Bitcoin? Maybe, but again, it's an incredibly risky situation if they were to do that, because they have 8 out of the 11 ETFs are custodied with them. If there's any proof, if any of them catch wind that there's paper Bitcoin and they don't actually own the Bitcoin, so there's sort of like, the ETF issuers are trying to keep Coinbase accountable because they want to know they have Bitcoin, and Coinbase wants them to know they hold their Bitcoin because they want to keep them as a customer. So there's all these incentives that are making it so that that paper Bitcoin is not going to be likely within that situation. There could be paper Bitcoin on other exchanges, though, just for regular average Joes that buy a bunch of Bitcoin and leave it on an exchange. And that's why you shouldn't do that, because you might be participating unknowingly in price suppression and paper Bitcoin. So again, that's why you got to take your coins off an exchange. I think on a big institutional level, very hard to create Bitcoin in the US market because of how regulated it is and the incentives of every individual and company and business that's involved.
Yeah, really well said.
And I think that, people will say, well, Jor, Forrest, Strategy is a public company, but so is Enron, right? So there's the possibility there. I mean, that's the whole thing with Bitcoin, is that you don't need to rely on auditors to prove that you have those assets. That's the point of Bitcoin, that you can be transparent with it, that you can show proof of reserves. And I hope that sometime in the near future that Strategy does implement proof of reserves, so we can kind of put an end to this. It's almost like the Satoshi coins. Like, not that I want them to move, but it's just another piece of FUD that people run with and say there's paper Bitcoin, Strategy doesn't actually own the Bitcoin. It's just a lot of question marks that don't really need to be questioned. It's very easy to show proof of reserves, and I do hope it happens.
Yeah. So somebody said here something about baskets where all your money in one basket isn't smart. It depends
Mhm.
on how it depends on whether you've studied whether that basket works or not, right? If that basket has a hole, like with fiat, then of course all your eggs in one basket isn't smart. But if you understand what the basket is supposed to do, if you, it's like it's back to what Sailor was saying. Are you sitting on
Yeah.
multiple chairs right now? Right? Are you do you have multiple houses? Do you drive multiple cars? Like every time you go somewhere, do you not worry about whether you get into a car accident, whether your car just stops working, whether your car explodes? Same thing with Bitcoin, right? Once you
Well, you,
understand that the car that you're driving is fine, you have to take risks,
yeah,
right? If you want to, you can easily get multiple different kinds of assets. Let's say you buy stocks, you buy real estate, you buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to be a small portion of your portfolio. The assets that you have are always going to trend to the amount of Bitcoin that you have. So if you have, let's say, a $10 million portfolio and you only have one Bitcoin, the value of that portfolio is going to trend to one Bitcoin.
But the
At some
value of
point,
that Bitcoin will be much higher.
exactly. At some
yeah,
point, let's say that Bitcoin will be worth $10 million, but maybe your portfolio is only worth $11 million because
yeah,
the rest of your assets are going to decrease in value in terms of Bitcoin. Maybe not $11 million, maybe like $21 million. But your Bitcoin is, as a percentage of your total portfolio, is going to keep rising and rising until it's basically 100% of your portfolio, 99.999% of your portfolio. And I think that's one thing that people haven't thought of yet. They haven't thought of the math behind when Bitcoin has these massively higher returns than everything else. It's going to eventually be the majority of your portfolio. I also do think so. Paulo also responded here. I still think BlackRock has paper Bitcoin. I don't think they do. I don't think they're that stupid. I think they're smarter than that because if they have paper Bitcoin and something happens, and at some point, let's say the SEC says that you can now do in kind withdrawals and deposits. BlackRock is not going to risk their entire reputation over like $5 billion worth of Bitcoin. They're not that dumb. They have
yeah,
11, $12 trillion worth of assets. They're not going to risk their entire reputation that they've taken decades to build over paper Bitcoin. And it's not even their Bitcoin. If it was their Bitcoin, it's different. And they're just trying to show people that they have Bitcoin. Maybe MicroStrategy's situation is different. BlackRock, you can't really say that with because BlackRock isn't going to mess around. They're not going to do that. They're not going to screw over their clients because they know that their clients have been there with them for a while. The only money that they make is the 0.25% in fees. So why would they hold paper Bitcoin on behalf of somebody to make 0.25%? The risk isn't worth it.
yeah.
I agree.
I want to go back to the analogy there of not putting all your eggs in one basket. Let's literally think about that for a second. If you have chickens and you're going to collect eggs, do you take two baskets with you when you only need one? No. You just take a good egg basket and you collect
Great
your
Yeah, you
point.
eggs.
just buy your baskets.
Boom. You put all
Yeah,
your
I
eggs in
think
one basket.
Yeah.
I think the people who diversify don't really understand anything that they're holding. And they're just they don't want to go all in on something because they don't understand anything that they're holding. So they just kind of hope that if they put some over here and they put some over there, then one of them is bound to go up. You might lose on some, you might go up in some, it should even out. But I think diversification, it used to be something that only rich people should do, but I don't even think that's the case anymore. I think that Bitcoin, when you understand Bitcoin, when you have the conviction over Bitcoin, it really doesn't make sense to own any other assets. I think the problem with that, though, is that the people who are at that level, the people who have tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, they have a lot of people, a lot of mouths that they're feeding. And unless they put in the time to understand Bitcoin, they see it as a huge risk in the fact that, I got a lot of people relying on me here. If Bitcoin were to fail, I'm in a lot of trouble, right? It's different for somebody who's 30 years old and doesn't have that built up and they can take more risk. Those are two different things. But I do think that even when what is it called, decamillionaires or centimillionaires, once they understand Bitcoin, they will eventually put the majority of their wealth into Bitcoin. And it'll happen over time as the conviction grows.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the chat here.
Oh, that's okay.
There's
It's
a
all
lot.
good, man.
It's all good. Yeah.
I
Paulo
want to
also
say a couple
mentioned
things
here.
before we move on.
Oh, yeah.
We got a couple zaps here beside Forrest Head there. There's a QR code if you want to send some value to the Maple Bitcoin channel. We received an 888 SAT zap. We received a 5,000 SAT zap. And we received 8,888 SAT zap from Matt, who said, not only is it Good Friday, but it's also Fat Zap Friday. V for V. Thanks for the stream, boys. Matt.
Wow,
And
value for
Nice.
value. I love it.
That's great.
and one more, 854 from Vali. So thanks, everybody. Very much appreciate that. If you want to send some sats, if you got a lightning wall with a bit of sats on it, you want to send our way for the stream today, for the channel, for helping grow this beautiful Bitcoin network, you can send it to that QR code. So we're next, boys. We get to some questions. That was a long debate over gold, 50 minutes. Wow.
Oh, there was another one here. Sorry, 1 second. I saw this other one from Paulo as well. He said 2008, where is it? 2008 showed you how smart the bankers are. I mean, it didn't really, because the only way they were able to survive is because of fake money.
He might have been being like sarcastic.
Oh, maybe he's being
there.
sarcastic. Yeah.
Yeah, but really all it showed was that banks have an incentive to take on greater and greater risk because they know they're going to be bailed out in the end. So that's just a problem of the fiat system with the money printer. It's not really, I mean, the banks were incredibly smart for taking on huge amounts of risk because all of the people within those banks working there got huge bonuses for the returns they got. And then when the bank collapsed, they just moved on, and there was no problem of them collapsing the economy and destroying people's savings and all the investors in their companies. It just didn't matter because they just walked away scot-free, multimillionaires from it all. So that's all.
Only
that
one of them went to jail.
One person
That's
went to
not
One
jail.
person.
That's
crazy.
insane.
To be that one person who went to jail, how do you think he must feel? Oh man.
That would have sucked. Yeah, be the scapegoat for a global financial crisis.
Yeah. And somebody said here the top 1% own 90% of the Bitcoin. Well, yeah, obviously, because there's only a very small number of people who actually understand Bitcoin, and they're putting in the time to buy as much as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're going to own 90% when 1% of the world probably owns 90% of the Bitcoin in total, because 99% of the world doesn't understand it. The title of this live stream.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's going to diversify over time. That's inevitable. And it's all the early adopters. It's a very finite, small supply when you actually look at it. So those numbers can get skewed very quickly because if 1 million coins move, then it's the 96 or 90, it's a small amount of total nominal numbers of Bitcoin. So those numbers get skewed really, really quickly. And yeah, I mean, the ETFs, they're IOUs, they're not actual ownership, but that's a way of technically diversifying Bitcoin holdings as well. I mean, yes, BlackRock owns that. It's custodied all with Coinbase and whatever. So it's centralized within the holdings, but the ownership of that, the technical ownership of it, not on the Bitcoin network, not with Bitcoin wallets, is diversified through all the funds and individuals that have bought in those ETFs. That's an argument. I mean, people could argue against that because it isn't real ownership, and I believe that as well. But it has added to the diversification of price exposure of Bitcoin, I suppose.
Speaking of that, Hired 1600 says, silly question, but I'm new to understanding Bitcoin. How would Satoshi move his Bitcoin to another address and still remain anonymous? Well, he wouldn't.
No.
There's a lot of people, there's a lot of eyes on the Satoshi wallet. If any of those sats moved, they would there'd be 10,000 tweets within the hour, I think. So they wouldn't be able to do that. And we would know that it was in fact Satoshi who moved it.
I mean, maybe their identity would still remain anonymous if they were smart about it, but washing those coins and making them usable and making them not connected to the Satoshi wallet would be really hard unless it's in very small chunks, because it's just it's a huge UTXO to put into a mixer that doesn't have the liquidity to mix that. So it would be very obvious.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I think at this point, people are just guessing which wallets belong to Satoshi because they just haven't moved, right? There could still be people who are not Satoshi Nakamoto that have Bitcoin from back then.
There was
And
a bug. There was a bug that showed a connection of wallets, and oftentimes there was a pattern. Satoshi would only mine the block at the end of it, allowing other miners to have the most chance to mine those blocks. So there was a pattern that
Wow.
connects people to Satoshi,
wow,
or
well,
connects
it's really
Bitcoin to Satoshi wallets. It's not also just not one wallet. It's a bunch of 50 Bitcoin wallets. It's a ton of small wallets. So they
like
use real wallets.
20,000 or something.
Yeah, something like that. You're right. It's not accurate. It's not 100% sure. So sometimes these wallets could move. We have no idea if it is Satoshi or not. This is just an estimation that somebody grafted from basically looking at the evidence. And I think there was also like a bug in the code at one point that showed some sort of connection or something like that. But yeah, we're not 100% sure any of that stuff is really Satoshi's or not.
Yeah.
The next question here, this is, we should definitely do this. So we have a lot of questions here. We might have to change somehow the format of this. If you do absolutely want your question to be addressed, we only have a finite time on these shows. So you can send a super chat. You can send a zap. We received a 2,500 SAT zap. I think I know who that was from. Cleaner Machine, maybe. And then we received 500 SAT zap as well. But Mankind, great name. Remember Mankind, the wrestler, you guys? Were you guys around for that era? No?
Wasn't a wrestler fan.
Oh, wow. Mankind. Anyways, multisig using 2 hardware wallets and Sparrow. How? Not possible. I think you need at
3.
least 3 wallets, right?
3. Yeah. You could do a 2 out of 3 multisig. You'd want to do multi-vendor, and it would be pretty expensive for us to explain that on this stream. It would be better to watch a visual tutorial if somebody's setting up a multisig, in my opinion.
Yeah. Which we could do. I think we should. One of the ideas we've been tossing around is to start doing some Maple Bitcoin webinars on certain topics like multisig, like private key management, like UTXOs, stuff like that. So keep an eye out in the future where we might start doing that once a week, once every few weeks. It will be a paid event, but we're reasonable guys, so we won't break the bank on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the next one, great name, by the way, Mike Hunt. Whatever that means. How much more OTC BTC is available for purchase? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea.
How much OTC, and there'll be people coming. I mean, it's a fluctuating number constantly. As the price moves up, there could be new OTC Bitcoin for purchase. The other thing too is these OTC desks source their Bitcoin from all over the place. It might be a peer-to-peer transaction, but they might also just go to exchanges and buy certain amounts and build up a wallet balance to then sell OTC to their buyer. So it does. It's all over the place. OTC desks source their Bitcoin from all sorts of places.
Yeah, that number can change whenever you want, whenever that happens. So when people tell you, "Oh, there's only 100,000 Bitcoin left on OTC desks," it doesn't really make it. It doesn't make any sense because that number can always increase. It's like there's an unlimited amount of Bitcoin that can go into it because, well, not unlimited, 21 million, but the number of people who can, it can circulate over and over again, right? People can buy from OTC and then they can sell on OTC again. Then they can buy and they can sell. They can buy and they can sell. So that number is, nobody knows. Nobody has any idea.
Yeah.
We got a chat here from who was it? I thought it was Crypto Princess. This stream has passed too quickly. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
On that note, Rajat, do you got to go right away?
I have a couple more minutes.
Okay, just let us know because we'll figure out how many questions we should be answering here. And
I can do 15 past the hour. So then
let's do. I'm okay with that. Let's do
Rajat.
15 past the hour.
Yeah,
cool.
So let's talk about when is GME finally buying Bitcoin? We have no idea.
They should do it. It's crazy that they haven't, but I think they have, within buying it, they have, I think, 4 days before issuing an 8K announcing that they bought it. So at any given moment, they're 4 days away from announcing they bought Bitcoin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe it's 4 days.
I didn't know about that. That's great to know.
It could be longer than that, but that's what I just off my memory thinking 4 days.
I'm pretty bullish on GameStop myself. I think it's one of those things right now where there's too many people who wait for an announcement to be made before they make a decision. And I think the writing's on the wall. I think if you really want to, make a serious profit on your trade, if you're a trader, do it before. And the writing to me is on the wall. It's very clear that they are going to be buying Bitcoin. And when they announce that, the price is going to shoot up and you're going to miss any potential gains that you would have had just by, having some sort of foresight and vision into the future. So
Yeah.
I don't know when it's going to be either, but speaking of Patrick, here's €6.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Forrest. Go ahead. What were you adding to that?
Nothing. We'll just continue on. It's all
Okay.
good.
So the super chat here is Schiff will be a speaker at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas to tell the conference goers that the party is over and there are better alternatives. Opinions.
This makes me a little bit less sad that I'm not going this year.
All I know is that everything that Schiff posts is going to age like dog shit. So every single video that he posts, every single comment that he posts, every single tweet that he posts about Bitcoin, his other stuff is pretty good. His economic stuff, his stuff about gold, all that stuff is okay, but I don't think he understands what Bitcoin is. So this is just going to be something else that ages like dog shit.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't understand Bitcoin. He thinks that all the other cryptocurrencies out there dilute Bitcoin. He thinks that they should tokenize gold and use that. That doesn't make any sense. Paperization of gold was a tokenization of gold, and it still needs to be enforced in the physical realm. And that's why fiat currency stopped working, and gold-backed paper didn't work either. So that's not going to work. He clearly is just missing some really key points. Or he's doing all of this for engagement because he owns a company called Schiff Gold that literally makes money from selling gold. So he's doing it all for engagement, getting all the people that hate Bitcoin, love gold, sound money enthusiasts, but don't understand Bitcoin to use him. And he is a master marketer, and he is just the ultimate engagement farmer. That is really my opinion now. I don't. Maybe he does understand Bitcoin. Maybe he doesn't, but he's doing it all for engagement. And it's crazy to me that the Bitcoin conference is giving him more engagement and more platform to talk on this. I think it's kind of dumb, to be honest.
I agree, man. It's so bad. I think that it'd be worse if Schiff actually did understand Bitcoin, and yet he's intentionally misleading his audience. Like, that's not something that people should downplay. People have taken his advice. They continue to take advice. They continue to make horrible financial moves because of what he says. And I think that he's also been posting his Bitcoin address on X, and Bitcoiners have been sending him sats. I think that if you are a Bitcoiner who sent Peter Schiff sats, you should lose your entire stack that day. I don't like to say rules within Bitcoin and control who has what, but I do think that there should be fines within Bitcoin, and people who send sats to Peter Schiff should be not only fined, but suspended from Bitcoin forever.
Those coins should be blacklisted.
Yes.
The ones in his wallet. Yeah.
Let's
just kidding there, but yeah.
George, do you mind just sharing my video here? Or my screen?
Yeah.
So Peter Schiff posted this video 11 years ago, and he's still sticking to it. That's crazy to me. He thinks he said the same thing 11 years in a row. Bitcoin is not gold 2.0. It's fool's gold. It's modern day alchemy. Significant risks by investing into it. Like this is from 2012.
Yeah, that's insane. And he's been wrong this whole time about Bitcoin, and people still take him seriously. He's just going to continue to be wrong, just as Rajat said. I mean, he might be right about certain things. Like he was early about the housing market being unsustainable in 2006. He posted a video about that, and he talked to the demonstrators at Occupy Wall Street about really the fiat system being really wrong and everything. But he's been incredibly wrong specifically about Bitcoin, and he will continue to be wrong. He'll just continue to be wrong.
So the day that he posted that video, November 21st, 2013, Bitcoin was around $590 then. So it's done more than a 100x in that time. And he's still sticking to his thesis. Like that just shows you this guy's insane. He doesn't know, he has no idea what he's talking about. He has no intention of learning what Bitcoin is. He doesn't really care.
Yeah, he's a professional grifter.
Yeah,
is what he is, with a bit of intelligence there. But I want to go back to this though, because first of all, I want to say shout out to DJ Garbage Bunny. Great name. $7 of Canadian Monopoly money here. Thanks for the stream, boys. It's like chatting with a few like-minded friends. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you.
That's very good. That's really nice.
Yes. And I want to go back to this because there's let's spend a couple minutes going a little bit further into, and it was actually DJ Garbage Bunny who asked this. Do you guys hold GameStop?
No.
I do. I actually sold some of my strategy shares to buy GameStop. And Melanie says, dangerous game. What do you think, Forrest? What's your opinion on GameStop?
So I hold 100 shares. It's not a significant amount for me. It's a little bit of gambling money. And I've been selling covered calls on them, out of the money covered calls, lowering my cost basis and actually taking that money and, putting it into other Bitcoin equities and things like that. So, yeah, I own a little bit, but I expect my covered call probably to be in the money at some point if Bitcoin is adopted by GameStop, and for me to just exit of that position. I'm already pretty far up on it, but I could see downside risk if, like, I have total trust and faith in Saylor to buy Bitcoin. I don't trust this Ryan Cohen guy at all. He's made terrible decisions, in my opinion, and he just doesn't seem like that trustworthy of a guy. So you're betting, when you bet on a company, you're betting ultimately on the executives and all the other aspects of it. But I don't know. It seems really weird to me that they haven't bought in Bitcoin yet. I thought they would by this point. And so I'm selling covered calls. That's a short position basically on my long, and we'll cap the upside at a certain point if they buy Bitcoin and if the price goes way up. That's my strategy with GameStop.
Don't you think that Cohen, I don't know. I agree with you. I think that he has made some bad decisions. I think the fact that he's been buying more shares in GameStop though would suggest that they do have the intention to buy Bitcoin, because if they weren't going to, with the recent run up with the Bitcoin news, I feel like that would be a time, if any, to actually dump some of his shares versus obtain more of it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it,
Yeah.
but I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah. There's some pretty good conviction. There's him and some other execs have all bought in Bitcoin or bought in GME shares, and he's actually put a margin loan on his GameStop shares to buy even more. So he has very high conviction. Now, why? I'm not sure. Is it the Bitcoin buy? Does he think that there's a lot of interest in that it'll drive prices up? Maybe. So yeah, I think that is a good signal. And again, very far out of the money calls, but because there's so much volatility in that stock, it's working for me, that strategy so far.
And before we answer the next question, just if you can leave a thumbs up, it really helps with our stream. It helps to push it to more people. More people will see it. More people will see our content, and I mean it helps everybody, right? More people will buy Bitcoin. More people will understand it. More people will pump the price of your bags up, and I think that's pretty great.
Yeah.
So thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
That's a great point. And that's what I was going to say, actually, because Peter Schiff is speaking at the Bitcoin conference. Maple Bitcoin is not speaking at the Bitcoin conference. We
Yes.
all have our own channels. We do a weekly live stream. We are trying to grow adoption. So one thing you could do, if you don't want to send some sats, if you don't want to press the like button, you could send the Bitcoin conference a tweet and say, why in the hell is Peter Schiff speaking at your conference, but the guys from Maple Bitcoin aren't? And if we got 20, 30, 50 of those comments on Twitter, maybe, just maybe, the Maple Bitcoin crew might be not taking Peter's spot, but also having getting to share the stage maybe on a different time. So
Maybe
let's
we'll
try
debate
it. Experiment.
Oh, that'd be nice.
What's
That'd
that?
be sick. Maybe we debate Peter.
Oh, I'd
It's
like
not gonna
that.
happen, but whatever.
I don't know how many people are on X, but it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Patrick's going to do it. Okay, next question here, fellas. I like this one. BTC is truth. What have been some of your most effective points to bring up when trying to orange pill someone that's new to Bitcoin?
I like to say mainly that the current system is it's a scam. You work for money that you put in your time, effort, resources. You put in as much of your you put in all of your resources into earning these things that somebody else can print. So why not find an alternative? So what I try to tell people is that I've spent years studying this thing, and I think that Bitcoin is the best alternative to the current system. You have stocks, you have real estate, you have bonds, but Bitcoin has outperformed all of them. So I don't know if people can directly orange pill someone if they don't want to be orange pilled. The person who's being orange pilled actually has to do some of the research. Like they have to put in the time, right? If they don't want to put in the time, then it's not going to happen. I can do whatever I want to tell you. I can post a video every single day. I can post a video every hour if I want to, but if somebody's not interested, they're not gonna be orange pilled, right? The biggest thing that you can tell them is that the returns are much bigger compared to everything else.
My what I do is I ask them questions. I don't actually try to tell them anything. I ask them, what do you know about Bitcoin? What is money? Why do we use money? Why do we have money? Who makes money? I start asking them questions, and then that makes them more inquisitive as well. That makes them realize their shortcomings in their knowledge, and then I can fill in gaps there if they're receptive to it. Orange pilling is a hell of a job though, and it's like if someone's trying to orange pill you, and you know them and you're friends with them, they probably care deeply about you because they're trying to help you. And so the people I've orange pilled have largely been, besides online, have been my family and my close friends. And yeah, some of them have been receptive to it, others haven't, but it's because I actually care about those people in my life that I try, at least try, because it is a hell of a job trying to orange pill people.
It really is. And if they're not ready to be orange pilled, they're not going to be orange pilled. Bitcoin's not something you can learn after watching a 2-hour video or a documentary or reading a book, in my opinion. You have to understand the problem first before you can understand the solution. So I think the best thing is just to kind of figure out where they are. As Forrest said, meet them where they are in the sense, find out, what they know about it. The other thing I would say there is that I hate the term orange pill. I think it feels very forced. And the last thing is I've kind of given up. I've kind of given up on trying to talk to people about Bitcoin and especially with my friends and family who I've talked about it before. Basically what I've done is I just took a small insignificant amount of my stack and I sent it to a few different UTXOs and basically earmarked it for them. So I would have like my friend, my nephew, whoever. And the nice thing about that is that you don't have to waste any more time and energy talking to them about it. The other thing too is they don't know you have it. And so if something were to happen, you still have the keys to that Bitcoin. But best case, like in a decade from now, imagine if Bitcoin does what we think it's going to do and you can hand out some of these UTXOs instead of saying, like, I told you so, just say, here, I knew this was going to come. I prepared for it. And imagine the feeling you would have from giving somebody sats that really didn't cost you much back in 2025, but will change their life in 2035.
It's going to be worth, like, by then, I actually think Bitcoin, if you put away 0.01 Bitcoin, that could easily be worth 100K, right? So imagine giving somebody, so I think after I started studying Bitcoin, the dollar has really not been relevant to me. I don't really think of it as, oh, I need to save dollars here. I need to make more dollars. I need to do this. I need to do that. To me, it's more like I have Bitcoin in the background. If prices go up, my Bitcoin's purchasing power is going up as well. So by then, let's say Bitcoin is at 100K to somebody who, or sorry, not Bitcoin is, the amount of Bitcoin that you have set aside for them is worth 100K. The people you're giving it to, if they still think of the world from a fiat standard, you're going to completely change their lives. Even if it can buy, let's say, $25,000 worth of goods from today, that $100,000 is going to be massive to them. It's going to completely change everything for them. They could start a business. They could pay off all their debts. They could get a new car. They can do whatever they want to, right? And they probably will, because they're not going to keep the Bitcoin, but it'll change their life. That's the main thing.
And the other thing I would say to that too is that that's kind of for my friends and family. But imagine if you put in even smaller amount. Let's say that those friends and family members have kids now who are like 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. You won't need nearly as much, because imagine in 20 years from now what those sats are going to be worth. So that's the same thing. Send them to college, help them start a business, help them buy a home. Like something
Huge.
so insignificant at this time could literally change somebody's life in a decade or two from now. So that's kind of my strategy now, mostly because it's selfish for me, because I don't have to spend any more time and energy on them. I can focus on the people who actually want to learn about Bitcoin, stuff like this. I think that that's much more powerful. The people who are almost there and trying to learn, that's who you want to focus on, I think, the most.
Yeah. Somebody said, how much to consult with each of you gentlemen? It's in all of the links. It's in the description for all of our videos. I don't want to tell you what the price is, because over time it's going up. We're increasing it. I don't know what it'll be by the time you check the links. Our time is valuable. More and more people are wanting to come to us to consult with us. I've had a lot of people consulting with me. They go through the link in my descriptions. I've actually had a lot of people asking about you guys. and I direct them to the link in the description. So over time, my rate's been going up. I know your rates have been going up, and they should, because we're creating more and more value. We're adding more and more value. The value that people are getting from our 1 hour, half an hour consultations is going to save them tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. It's such a
So
rewarding thing too. I
Yes.
love doing the Bitcoin coaching. It's
Yep.
like every time that people are, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but people are like, wow, this has been so valuable. Like, thank you so much. And I'm just like, this has been a pleasure. Like, I'm so thankful that I get to teach you something that you
Yeah.
didn't know about before. It's been awesome.
Yes.
All right, guys,
So
I'm going to head out.
Okay.
okay,
Great
you
call.
too,
I'll
Forrest?
leave mine on.
I think we should do one more question here. There's
yeah, let's do
one
that.
in the star chat here by Buck52,000. Serious question. You guys are millennials from Canada. Do you think that skews the forming of your opinions? If we want to answer this, and then we'll go, if that sounds good
Yeah.
to you guys.
I'm
Yep.
good with that.
Okay.
Definitely has changed my opinion, because when I first entered the workforce, we were already struggling, and it already felt like we were working towards nothing, essentially. So it definitely changed my opinion.
It is. And for me, just being from Canada, I think the thing that's really changed my whole perspective on this thing is, number one, we've had a decade of liberal policies. People who literally, in my opinion, hate Canadians, hate our country, have done pretty much all that they can to destroy our country in the name of liberal, in the name of good. But the other thing too is that I understand now, after getting into Bitcoin and kind of sniffing around a bit, I understand the power of natural resources, the power of energy, and how important it is to have as a country. And Canada, more so than probably any other country on this planet, has an absolutely abundant amount of natural resources. And the fact that there's people living on the streets, the fact that there's people lining up at food banks, that should never, ever be the case in this country. We should be one of the most abundant, rich, wealthy countries. But because of our government, because of a centralized entity being able to create money, being able to influence, manipulate, program minds, we're in a tough spot. And I think that Bitcoin is the cure to all that. The centralization is the problem. Decentralization and Bitcoin is the solution. And that's why I'm so excited. And I think that that's why there's so many great Bitcoiners from Canada.
Yeah, well said, both of you. I think that a lot of who we are, my theory is on who we are as individuals is dictated by when we're born, where we're born, what our environment is. This dictates a huge amount of who we end up being in the world, what we end up doing. And Canada has my entire life, getting into, like, I guess my entire adult life has been a struggle with the affordability, with living affordability, with housing going up, with just the cost of fuel, energy, food, everything. That has been a constant understanding that is a problem. And when that is a problem, you start looking for what is the solution, right? So you really only look for solutions when there is a problem. So 100%, being a millennial, when I was born, and the world I get into as an adult, being in Canada, where we have huge problems with housing being a store of value, foreign investment, lack of too much regulation for building, all of these things compound and create unaffordable housing, which I've been struggling with my entire life. And of course, that has led me to Bitcoin. So yes, big part of me forming my opinions, definitely.
Good way to end the show, boys. I mean, the channel's called Maple Bitcoin. We are all from Canada. We haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about Canadian anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of after a couple months here. This is the first little deep dive we did into Canada. So we received a couple more zaps. I want to give a shout out because it is definitely not unnoticed here. We got 1,000 sats and we got 500 sats from, it looks like Buck52 there in the chat. So once again, for the last time, if you would like to support the channel here, there's a QR code beside Forrest's head. You can send some sats to that. You can also send it to Maple Bitcoin at coinos.io, which I just put in the chat there. If you don't like the QR codes, if you'd rather type it in there. Other thing, we are on Twitter. We now are on audios, thanks to Forrest. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Fountain. And yeah, do you guys have any closing thoughts for the week, for Easter?
Happy Easter, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you all. And I love chatting with you guys. So that was a great live stream, in my opinion.
Just leave a thumbs up on the way on the way out. You don't need to contribute to our wallet. Don't need to do any of that. Just leave a thumbs up so more people see the content. That's it.
Yeah.
And send a message to the Bitcoin conference telling them to replace Schiff with Maple Bitcoin, boys. So thanks, everybody. Your support means the world to us, for the sats, for the comments, for just showing up here and actually taking the time and energy from your own day to try to push things forward here. That's what we're doing. We all want a better world. That's what we see, and that's what we're trying to do every single day. So we'll be back here next Friday, same time, same place. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you then.